Welcome, everybody, to Breaking the Silence. You have a voice. I hope everybody is having a great week, and we want to welcome all of our viewers tonight. Welcome all of our Caribbean jammers to the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, we're almost ready for the holidays, and tonight we're going to talk about um, All Eyes on Me. Last week we kind of touched a little bit on it. We were talking about, how people dress and how they get a certain kind of attention. So I thought it would be a good spinoff to talk about, are you an attention getter or are you an attention seeker? Because there is a difference. And we're going to talk about it tonight. But before we start our conversation, I want to introduce the host. We want to welcome Dr. Yvonne Bennett to the show. How you doing tonight? That's my mom. So how you doing,
Doing
Mom?
well. I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good, good. You having a great week?
Having a great week. Yes.
Good. Are you ready to cook for us for
I
Thanksgiving?
am. I am. I am all prepared.
I'm ready.
I'm sure you are.
Yes, and we want to welcome back to the show. Hopefully he's permanent. But Pastor AT, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And sorry about the mix-up last week. I'm here for as long as you have me, or as long as God allows me to be here. Thank you for having me. God
All
bless you.
right, well, welcome, welcome. And the beautiful Pastor Melanie Butler. How you doing tonight?
I am doing well. Thank you.
Good, good, good. Are you cooking for Thanksgiving?
Doing a little bit of cooking, just a
Okay.
little bit. Dessert and ham. Oh,
Oh,
look,
yummy.
y'all, I'm doing my banana pudding.
All right, all right. Yes,
The
that's
one that we ate up in Georgia at Pastor AT house years ago.
all
Yeah,
right.
that's good
That's what
stuff. That's good
I
stuff.
haven't had a good banana pudding in a long time.
Man, oh
So I
man.
will be making one of them and another dessert and maybe Minister Isaac, you may have had my crustless pumpkin pie.
Yes, I've had
My
it.
crustless pumpkin pie, and I'm gonna do ham.
All right, all right. And how are you, the amazing Dr. Isaac Davis? How you doing tonight?
I am terrific, 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 terrific.
Good.
Looking forward. It's funny because Pastor Mel and I were just talking about. I think it was on Sunday when we said Thanksgiving is next week. Can you believe that?
Yeah. This year
And it was
went
like,
by
Yeah.
so
and just to
fast.
be honest, that is like that. The month just started. It seems like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It
Yeah.
seemed like
So
the year just started and we're
yes,
already at
exactly,
the end. Yes.
exactly. So, but yeah, but for
Mhm.
Thanksgiving, I will be in the state I was born and raised in. Yeah,
Alabama.
state of Alabama, being in good old Birmingham,
I'm
spending
Okay.
coming
time
down
with
this
my
way.
parents. Yes,
That's where some of my people from. My dad is from Alabama.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where I would
I
be.
live there.
You live in
Mm.
Birmingham?
Nah, I live in Alabama.
Oh, okay,
Wow.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
Okay. Okay.
Columbus and Phoenix City are border cities.
yeah,
So
yeah. True that. True that.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, I'm not cooking, but I'm going to my mom's house. I'm going to eat real good.
amen.
I'm looking
Nothing
forward to
wrong with
it.
that.
I know. Well, we want to talk about tonight. I thought it was a good topic because a lot of times, and someone said last week, certain people don't like to be picked on, but they dress a certain way, which causes the natural us, because, although we love Jesus with all our heart, a lot of times we see some people and you're like, what? you know, they catch you
Hmm.
by surprise and you go, why do you have that on? And it's not just we talked a little bit about the LGBT, but it's a lot of people. It's just people in general. And then it's not just the way people dress. It's the stuff that I see, you see it on social media, you see it in the streets. People are loud, they're unseemly, they don't know how to um, carry themselves. And I have to chalk it up to they just want some attention. Now, some people don't care if they get positive attention, negative attention. They just want attention. So they seek ways. And I looked it up, and it's even got a name. It's called attention seeker disorder. I'm like, wow, never knew that. But what do y'all think about that? Like I know that I'm not the only person that sees what's going on in the world today. And I'm like, it's so much from Facebook to Instagram, even the things that people post. It's like that is amazing that you thought that it was okay for you to go on TikTok and do that.
But styles are repeating themselves. But okay, I know that we're gonna get further into this, but when you really look at it, styles always repeat themselves. So
Mhm.
you remember during the times that we came up that we had the spandex shorts, uh, especially when Salt and Pepper uh, came out with the extra spandex shorts on. So of course we had that going on. Then we went from the baggy clothes to the Tims. Like Tims have always been in for us. But what I can't get right now is the complete see-through dresses
Mm.
that women are wearing now, and what women are doing. Um, what should I say? We know that entertainers do it because they have to make a presentation that brings attention to them, so that it creates jobs for them. And the more popular, the more jobs that they get. We do understand that. But I think that whenever that they take, or that when we take their styles and incorporate it into our everyday life, I'm like, even when the stars do it, I'm still like, why did you do that? Like, what made you come? What made you say I want an all see through dress and you can see everything?
Mm.
Some
Literally.
people, yeah, some people though want to be trendsetters. And so they want to, well, if I wear this, then I can start something and then people will follow suit. That is what people do. And I do agree, history does repeat itself because right now we're back into, I'm going to say the 70s. If you see now the wide leg jeans, the
Mm.
bottom, wide legs back in, the patent leather
Mhm.
boots. Um, that's back in style. But some of it, I think people are like, I want to be different. I want to be a trendsetter. So let me put this on and let me see how many people copy me.
Mm.
Sometimes it
From
works
my
and
perspective,
sometimes it doesn't.
though, it's a mixture of a lot of things. It's 70s, you got some 80s with the ripped jeans and colored hair and mohawks and different things.
Oh,
So
the
really
mullet.
everybody's in the mullet, everybody's kind of blending things
Mhm.
together,
That's
and really
true.
they're just kind of venturing out. The thing that bothers me the most is that at some point somebody told these rappers and things like that you can dress up in dresses, and that became the trend, or which is I don't see it being mainstream as far as everyday life. But these guys are wearing dresses, and it's like what's the point? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so it's like you're doing it to try to kind of get out there, to be
Mhm.
seen. You're trying to do something new, something that nobody's ever done. And yeah, unless you're a cross dresser or that kind of stuff, I
Mhm.
guess nobody really gonna go around wearing that. But
Now, I used
yeah.
to be a dedicated follower of GQ, um, because I used to love the extra styles that was in GQ. I remember back in the day when they would post, or not when they post, when they would do photos and have photos of men back then. Men would always have a real nice suit, or it was always something real nice casual. Every now and then, you see the extreme trend, and I can remember back in the 80s and 90s where that the guys wore a very long sweater that it hung down to their knees or it hung down to their shin. But it was an extreme trend and it was fashion. It never really was taken outside of what fashion was, and you were in that industry of fashion. Now a lot of those trends that I saw back then in the 80s, 90s, and yeah 80s and the 90s are now trends that are actually happening. But the one trend that I don't think that we ever saw, except for when an actor did it on TV, is when is I just like AT said, is that when a man started wearing a dress, and it's the trend.
down the red carpet and stuff. And
Exactly.
Well, I think that too, when you look at now, because I thought that the ugliest trend that they had, and they can't seem to get rid of it, is the guys who walk around with their pants
Oh, I can't stand
hanging down. They don't even know what that means.
Right.
It started in the 80s.
To go away. But the thing about it, now let's talk about why they actually do it. Like, we think that it's a trend, but I want to hear from Dr. Bennett, because it goes further than that. When we seek attention and we feel like we have to go and we have to do the extreme, there's some underlying issues there too. Maybe some self-esteem, maybe some other stuff going on, because normally when you're feeling pretty good about yourself, you still stay within boundaries. You set boundaries for yourself to what you will wear, what you will do. So what does it stem from?
Most of the time, it stems from low self-esteem and low self-worth. People not thinking much of themselves. But it goes deeper than that. Sometimes attention seekers have a mental illness. They have a mental illness, and that has not been, attended to, and they don't even realize. Some attention seekers don't even realize that they're trying to, or that they're seeking attention. And then you have this behavioral disorder. Some people have a behavioral disorder. They don't even realize what day of the week it is. And attention seekers also, one of the characteristics that stems out of it, how you can really identify it, they're manipulators. They want that attention, and some of them don't realize that they're doing it, but then there's some that do. They want that attention. They brag. They're very loud, like you said. They're being extremely, extremely, extremely needy, where it's nobody else in the world. Nobody else matters but them. But it really stems from low self-esteem, low self-worth, and it starts like Pastor Mel and I mentioned before on one of the shows, when they were younger. Children, when they're younger, you have to really, people don't understand. You can train your child. You can at a certain point, you can get them to understand yes, no, hot, stop. You can, because if those things go ignored and it's just Johnny being Johnny, Janie being Janie, no, it's more to it than that. But once again, sometimes attention seekers have a mental illness, and that mental illness can take you into areas that you just don't want to go. I see it all the time.
Now, I totally agree with you, but I also think that if you talk about it stemming from when they were a child, I think it was unmanaged.
Yes.
So a lot of times, children, when they're not managed and they're able to just, because temper tantrums, that's an attention seeker. That's a person that I want your attention, so I'm going to fall out on the floor. And if you allow your child to do that, if you allow your child to scream, if you allow your child to speak out and loud voices and act unseemly, those ways tend to grow up in them, and now they're a full-fledged adult acting like a child. So even we see it everywhere too. We see it on the job. You ever see somebody that just walk in and they always have this demeanor about them? And when they walk in, you got loud Susie. You can hear her all the way across the room. And it's like, why are you talking so loud? Or you can be, I know you've seen this, Mom and Pastor Mel, in the nail shop. You on your cell phone. Why do I need to hear what you
so
are
loud that you can hear them outside?
That you're talking to. I don't want to hear, it's like they need to have that attention on them, but they don't realize that that attention is not positive attention.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
negative attention. And I
Right.
Mhm.
think that a large part of it is because it wasn't managed when they were little.
And that's true. And that personality disorder drives people to that attention seeking. Like you said, you mentioned the nail shop. There have been times when I've seen people talking on their phone loud in a nail shop or in a public place, and then they'll tap somebody else because they're trying to make make the person that they're talking to. They're trying to prove to them that they're right. So, well, what do you think about this? Wait a minute. What do I have to do with that?
Mhm.
Well, include me in your conversation.
Yes.
But that's all. It's all about them and attention seekers. It's really serious and it's dangerous. It can be embarrassing. It
Mhm.
can be humiliating.
And
And
it never ends.
once again, when
It
you talk about
never
children,
ends.
Mhm.
you have to really, really monitor that. You have to get a handle on it. I've seen children in the mall literally tell their parent off and go and strike them. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely something that you have to control whenever that is a child, and that's definitely when you just allow your child to just have their way. That's where it starts at. But I like what Doctor B said. When I actually looked it up, it was like I look at jealousy, low self esteem, loneliness, and Doctor B said like it's a personality.
Disorder.
Disorder. I can think of friends that I've had. I've seen some very beautiful women with some very low self esteem, and then in my mind, it makes me wonder, like you have all this natural beauty about you, why you have such
Yeah.
a low self esteem about yourself. I've seen some women do some crazy things, and I'm like, you don't have to do this, you know. Or I've talked to people that they feel that they are just completely invalid, and trying to find out what was the source of that. Sometimes it's difficult because they don't want you to know what the sources is.
And
So
sorry.
and so until you get to what the source is, you really cannot even help them until you learn what the source of their low self-esteem is. And sometimes it's very difficult to even get them to even speak about it.
You
Well,
know, I used
and
to work with this lady and I'm going to and this is where I'm going with that with attention seekers. Sometimes attention seekers did things to get attention and people laughed.
Yeah.
So
mm,
here it is. Oh, I can make you laugh if I dress this way, and two, sometimes they're doing it to get either negative or positive attention. But sometimes some of this is fueled because I'm going to do this for attention. And if let me see what kind of reaction I do. And so it actually feeds them, and then if it just continues, okay, well, this group of people laugh. Well, let me try it with this group of people. And sometimes I think people will also, I'm gonna say it's like a study, whether they realize it or not. Let me go to this group of people and let me try this and see what kind of reaction I get. Well, when I'm around this group of people, let me see what kind of reaction I can
Mhm,
get. And I want
mhm.
to say it actually fuels them getting that attention, and then it comes to a point in time where they don't know how to turn it off,
Yeah.
and the people who they went to previously begin to get tired of it.
and
Yes.
Okay.
Hey
that's
V,
that is so true because we always say you want to be celebrated, not tolerated.
right. Hey
What
V,
I
can I
want
make a statement to Miss Carey's statement?
Yeah. Yeah.
When she said that we need to be careful about calling every action a mental illness or personality disorder. Some people just have no home training or manners. Well, that's where it starts at. We as parents see things in our children,
Yes, we do.
especially when they are having outbursts. Um, the word says that train a child in the way that he should go, that when he's old, that he should not depart from it. Also, the word says that uh, that we
Foolishness.
um yes, that one. It
The
also it
rod
talks
of
about,
correction will drive
yes,
out foolishness.
the rod of correction. The rod of correction is not beating your child. The
No.
rod of correction is you are correcting an
Yes.
act that you see that's coming outwardly
Right,
out of
right.
them, and you doing that through your wisdom and knowledge of that. And that meaning that sometimes we got to get to the point where we explain to our child of that this, and we as parents, let's
Mhm.
own up to what we've done. We
Mhm.
as parents have allowed our children to have these outbursts, and that we have not checked it. We have allowed them to do other things that has caused other things, other issues to come out because we chose not to correct the action. And one thing that I said to my daughter's mom was that as long as you allow her to do that to you, she will always do that to you.
Yeah.
And it's also proven in children. Watch this. How many times have you seen a child do something to the mom, but will never do that same thing to the dad?
Yeah, never. Right,
Never.
right.
Or that child would do something like Pastor Mel, you actually have Zoe. You notice things that he'll never do with you, but as soon as his mom come, what does he do? He
The
actually
complete
does it.
opposite.
Exactly. So that shows that a child is able to learn and pick up quickly of what he can, what he or she can and cannot do with each other. So that tells you that the child is already learning patterns with particular people,
Yeah,
and
I
we
would
have
like
to
to
And,
correct
comment
it.
on. I would like to comment on that that text. I think it's from her name is Carrie. We're not saying that all attention seekers have a mental disorder or a personality disorder, but sometimes it's very present. I have a lot of clients that fall into that category: personality disorders and mental illness. And one of the things that alluding to something that Dr. Isaac said, one of the things that we as a people have to do when we see these things, I think Lady V said some things, and Pastor AT, we have to ignore them because they love attention. Just ignore them, you know. And someone said, you know, we sit around and sometimes they're acting a certain way and we laugh. No, just ignore them. Just ignore them because they love attention. If they realize that they've got that attention from you, they will take it to the next level. I see it all the time.
Well,
And
I
I
think
just,
that I think
go ahead.
go ahead, Mom.
No, I was just
I
saying that
think that when
you just can't address, you just can't fall into that. One of the attributes of a person that has that thing over them, that attention seeking spirit, I call it, is they're always talking, always talking, always talking, always talking. They are very poor listeners.
well, the thing is, when you talk about unmanaged behavior, and I do want to comment on something that Devola is saying. uh, Unmanaged behavior is not always mental illness, and
No.
it may not be a personality disorder.
Right.
What it can do is it can lead to that,
Mhm,
because
Yes.
when it's
mhm.
Yes.
not managed,
There you go.
that now when you
It's
fail to
unchecked.
manage behavior, period,
Mhm, mhm,
what could have been managed? And let's take for instance an attitude problem. You have an anger
Yes.
issue.
mhm.
Yes.
Now, an anger issue is not necessarily a mental disorder, and
No.
it's not a personality disorder.
Right.
You just got anger issues because you don't know how to use your nice words.
Mhm.
But
Hmm.
if not managed and not and not corrected, now what can just be anger can turn to rage. Now you're dealing with the mental side of it,
Yes.
because when
Yes.
you start having outbursts, it's a difference in I'm arguing with you and I'm loud, to now I'm breaking up everything, I'm tearing up everything, I'm totally out of control. The police got to come and get
Mhm,
me. Now you're
mhm,
doing
mhm.
more than
Yeah.
anger.
The anger,
Yeah.
right.
And,
So,
and
All right.
it and it can lead sometime. I'm not saying all the time, but it can
And
lead
lead
to
to
some
it.
mental, because
Absolutely.
you can have a nervous breakdown when you don't have managed
mhm,
behavior.
that's
You can
right.
have all kinds. That's why the first thing the doctors want to do is put you on medication, because they're
Yeah.
like, well, you can't manage it. If you
That's right.
can't sit down and you can't think about your actions, before you react. And you can't say to yourself, and yourself say, you need to not say anything right now. You need to, because this is what we teach our children. We teach the children at the school. I need you to sit over here and take a 5-minute breather before you lash out at your friends. Because a lot of times what people do is these children are lashing out at each other because they have unmanaged behavior. But
Yes.
they have unmanaged behavior because their parents have unmanaged behavior. We were taught in the Black community, we just slap our kids. Our kids say something, we slap them. Our kids say something, we beat them out of control. And that causes, so now you're reacting to the child's behavior in an unmanageable way, instead of saying, okay, wait a minute, can you please tone your voice down and use your inside voice? But see, we were taught, oh, that's excuse me, white people stuff. Well, that's how white people talk. No, we needed to learn some things along the way and use corrective behavior. Smacking your child across the face and upside the head and yelling at them and cussing at them. If you cussing at your child, you are doing the wrong thing.
That's right.
And so ultimately it boils down to people who understand themselves or have their self under authority and understand authority don't do stuff out of check. So usually what happens is, let's just get down to the meat of it. One, let me go ahead and say this. Everybody likes a little attention at some point in their life. We don't do the hair we get. We don't dress the way we do just to have somebody not notice what we wear. If that's the case, then everybody get your Kanye homeless looking stuff going on and you wear that if you don't care about the attention that you get from the people.
Right.
So let's put that. The issue is those things being unchecked and that's all you want. The problem to me is when there's a lack of authority or structure in the home, and that's what we're dealing with in society right now. A lack of structure in the home, whether it's the father not being there or whether the mother not being the authority to put these things in check. Because I'm going to tell you right now, everybody says the mom can do the same thing as the dad can do. That's not true. That's not even scripturally signed. There are some things that are given to the father to do, certain visions, certain things that he sees and perceptions of how he sees his children that the mother would never see. I am training my sons right now how to be young men. I'm loving my daughter so she knows how to be loved. I'm loving my wife so my daughters can see how to be loved. These things, and also that there's some give and take, so it ain't all about you. Right. When there's no father in the picture, when there's no authority in the picture, it's complete chaos. And everybody, the Bible says everybody does what's right in their own eyes.
That's
and
right.
Because of that, you have people out of check. Nobody says anything. You have adults who still act like children, as you said, because nobody ever checked them and said, this is not the right behavior because you're being selfish. And people who do outbursts like this and go beyond the norm for attention getter because it's all about them, they're being selfish because they're not listening to the people around them.
That's true.
Case in point.
That's true.
Case in point. If I wanted to, as a human being, and preach or whatever, you could try to dominate the conversation between all of us. But if I do that, then that means I'm missing what's being said and I'm missing certain things that I need to glean.
Right.
That's right.
So attention seekers only want to be heard, but they don't want to listen.
They don't want to
listen. Whether it's adults or whether it's children. Now we're talking about the children, but eventually I want to be able to talk about adults because most of us are dealing with those children who have grown up unchecked and unruly. Some of us married them. Some of us dated them.
That's true.
And so we need to really talk to help the people because the kids are the kids. We got them. You can only help them. But what about those other people that you run into in your day-to-day life? So I'm gonna
let me actually hit this this other comment when she said a lot of people are never taught how to adult. The old teachings of table manners and how to conduct oneself in certain settings. Let me say this. There are, I believe, and I'm going to say this through experience. You have a natural checker within you.
Yeah.
And that natural checker lets you know that you are doing something wrong, no matter what it is, even if it's something that you've never been taught. That is the good that's within all of us. Okay, we can get to a point to where we ignore the natural checker of what we're doing, especially when we're doing things for attention. So I'm gonna use this to this day. As far as my memory can recall, I've never heard my dad say I love you. The words, I've never heard him say that I love you. It's even hard for my dad to even hug me today. The reason it is because of the way that he was raised. Okay. I made a decision within myself that I would never do that to my children. So because I saw something that I needed, I made a change and when it came to my children. So I immediately broke that cycle that I felt in my life. I broke it when it came to my children. So we naturally see things that we should say, wow, I've been doing this wrong, or I've been doing this, but I see that there's a better way to actually do this. So I don't go by the aspect of I never was taught that, so this is how I'm always gonna act. No, because you see different every single day. You see how people conduct themselves, and you get to see the results that they get from conducting themselves a certain way versus another way. So attention seeking leads to other things, and the more that you practice what the attention seeking attributes are, is the more that it has the potential to become a um a psychological problem.
But I also think that it's what you feed yourself.
True.
Because a lot of times
That is
when you
powerful.
feed yourself a lot of garbage, and
Yep.
let's really talk about it. We
Yep.
we we feed ourselves so much garbage. When we get on social media and we get on and we watch all of these crazy shows. That's why I don't like a lot of these reality
Reality shows, yeah.
shows and Jerry Springer and all. When you that's craziness to me, because you are grown people getting on national television because somebody thought it was a good idea to discuss who their baby daddy is. That's not cool. That is not cool. Those are people that you didn't think that out. And so a lot of times our behavior is due to what we feed ourselves. And when you continue to feed yourself garbage, you listen to garbage, you entertain garbage. Let me tell you something. People make you upset all the time. But when
Hmm.
you start getting on social media and expressing your feelings, because you feel like you want to tell somebody off, you want to cuss your friends out, you want to cuss the people out that done ticked you off. That is not the
Hmm.
that is not the format and the platform for us to do that. When you going off on people in the restaurant, in the stores, and you cussing at people and you cussing out customer service, we all get frustrated. Trust me.
Hmm.
When I talk to customer service representatives, sometimes I just have to hang up. I just have to be like, you know what? I'll try another day, because it is frustrating. The world is frustrating right now, but you can't lose your cool. You have to stay calm and cool and collective, even in hot situations. And I totally agree with you, Dr. Isaac. Sometimes it may not be the environment in which you grew up in, but
Hmm.
when do you learn how
Hmm.
to control yourself? When
Hmm.
do you learn and say, you know what, I know this ain't cool. I know I may have to read a book. I may have to take a class, because a
There
lot
you
of
go.
times these people are difficult to work with. You're difficult in relationships. Nobody want to be around you. They don't want to be around difficult people.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to go with you to the mall or to the store and you're going to snap out and embarrass me. I don't do embarrassment. And a lot of times
Mm-mm.
we don't think about that.
You
Well,
know,
That
and
going back to,
listening
go
to
ahead.
everybody, it made me think about some people, attention seekers, what they saw in their household from their parents or maybe from a relative. So
Yes,
some of it can be learned behavior
it is.
Mhm.
It
because
That's
the
is.
right.
parents
That's
were
right.
never checked and the parents thought it was okay. So here it is. This is what the child or the children are seeing. And oh, well, if my parent or parents are doing it, then guess what? It's okay for me to do it. And then I grow up acting the same
Yeah,
exact way as
yeah,
my parent.
yeah.
Here it is learned behavior. And because it's learned behavior, not only am I an attention seeker, but now other things are coming along with me
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
being a attention seeker now. And I think about what you said, Lady V. Now here it is, I'm going off on people, because when I go off on people, then I'm getting attention. People are stopping. They want to see what's going on.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the parents have never been put in place. So here it is, like I said, the children are growing up thinking it's the right thing to do until somebody brings it to their attention and
Mhm.
say, this is not how you handle it.
Mhm.
And
It's
one
not
of the
Yeah.
things too, and that's really good, Pastor Mel. One of the things with children too, the Bible does tell us that we should train the child up in the way they should go, and when they get older, they won't depart from it. From
Mhm.
what? From what they've learned, and that's why we have to be full of wisdom when we're raising children. You can't push children aside. Stay in a child's place. If a child is ignored when they're younger,
Mm.
they develop low self-esteem, low self-worth. Nobody
Yes.
wants to hear me, nobody cares about me, and so forth and so on. When I grow up, I'm going to show the world something, and that's where your promiscuity comes in, and a lot of these other things that leads right to attention seeking,
Mhm.
because they never had an opportunity to voice their concerns, their feelings. Just
Mhm.
shut up. Just shut up and sit down. Go to bed. No, you have to take time to listen to them, because children are people too, and they have
Exactly.
a lot.
Mhm.
They have
Yeah,
a lot to say.
that's what I was
Young
thinking.
people, young little ones, they have a lot to say. You may not understand everything they're saying, but try to understand their dialect. Let them point. Do
Mhm.
whatever you have to
Mhm.
do to get
Mhm.
them to to let them know that I understand, I care, and I'm here to listen. But when you see a child that is super silent growing up, isolated, watch
Mhm.
out.
Watch out.
Because
That's right.
whatever they internalize, it's
yeah.
going to come out.
Right.
And it's not going to be nice.
Right.
You're right.
I remember at one time I was watching Dr. Phil, and he was talking about how that every single thing that an adult is doing today, it was in them as a child,
Yeah.
and 9 times out of 10 they displayed it as a child, and we as the parent just ignored it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So that's why that it's scientifically proven that it starts as a child.
Yeah. It
That's
does.
that's where it actually starts at, and we as parents have to be very mindful of our children. You have to watch out for those behaviors, and I and it's funny. I knew that my for some reason I cannot explain it to this day. I knew that my son liked Hispanic women when he was a child. I knew that as a child. I'm like, how did I know this as a child? His girlfriend is Hispanic. So just saying that I believe that God endows us with wisdom, with parental wisdom about our children. We choose to ignore a lot of that wisdom, and we don't check our children. But Miss Carrie, to your comment, no, I did not seek it. It was something that I wanted, and because I wanted to hear that from my dad, because I wanted to hear that, and I never did. I made sure that my children got exactly what I did not have.
Okay, okay. Well,
Amen.
I'm going to
You
disagree with her
know,
comment. Let me throw this out, Pastor
go
Mel.
ahead.
I'm going to disagree with her comment. You're still taught, because there's two ways that you can learn.
That's right.
Everybody
See,
here
To
would
and
know
how
that
not to.
Saul was a mentor to David. Saul was a hot mess. Saul did everything wrong.
hmm
David learned what not to do by watching Saul.
That's
Bingo.
So
right.
you
right.
can have mentors in your life that are a hot mess
Mhm.
and don't do the right thing, and then say, you know what, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to do something else.
That's
That's
right.
right.
So therefore, you can learn from anybody if you desire to do better, if you
That's
Yeah.
right.
desire greatness in your life. I don't have to necessarily see the greatness in someone else to want to be great.
hmm
Sometimes I just say, I don't want to be this. If nothing wrong with this, I'm just giving that as an example. If you working at McDonald's and I see, a person or a parent or whatever working at McDonald's for 12 hours a day, I'm gonna say, you know what? Thank the Lord that my parents are providing, but I don't think I want to go in this direction. My parents made some mistakes in their life that led them to this action.
Mhm.
Let me go
Mhm.
ahead and do something different so I can get me in a different result. That's
Yeah.
where I'm gonna go.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
she
I
said
think
that's what
that,
she meant. Yeah.
and
Okay.
I think that at the same time, when the battle that we have, see, when we were in school, when we were growing up, our parents supported our teachers in
Correct.
correcting us.
That's
We
Yes.
true.
have to
That's true.
remember that in the school system, your teachers are we are with children, because I work in the school setting. So we are with your children at least 8 hours to 10 hours out of the day.
Six
So
to ten
we
hours a day.
are the primary influence over your children, because 10 hours is a long time. Then you only spend 4,
5.
if that,
Yeah.
because you take the
That's
children
right.
home and put them in the bed. So
That's right.
if I tell you that your child is acting out, you can't argue with me. You can't argue with the teacher. You have to be a support system, because
Yes.
we are not
Sure.
picking on your child. And that
No.
is the difference in today's society versus when we were coming up. If I remember when I was growing up, and my mom getting a phone call from the teacher, my mom didn't argue with the teacher. My mom came at me and she was like, okay, what are we doing at school? And then I don't know about y'all parents, but my mom showed up. And she would tell me, if I show up, I'm gonna show out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew what that meant. So I was like, well, I definitely don't want her to show up. And I really don't want her to show out. So I need to correct my behavior, because that was the moms back in the day. My mom only had to get me one good time, surprise me in school. And that was a wrap. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Vaughn, let me just jump in, and maybe all right, and maybe what you just said, you made a point, and it stuck with me for some reason. I can't let it go. You said that because teachers have the children the most, they're the primary influence. If that's the case, then there's something wrong with the parenting, because there's
Exactly.
something about the father and the mother. Though, see, your teachers change every year. You get to high school, you get a new teacher every other day.
Every
The
hour. Every
person who
hour.
feeds you, clothes you, the person who you look like, the person who takes you to church, the person who teach you about social issues that the teacher don't teach you is the parent. So ultimately, you're going to hear and so my thing there is that the parents, a lot of times, even in our community, have relied to the point where the teacher does the parenting. Well, you
Yep.
do that, and you have your children doing a whole bunch of stuff and having a whole bunch of ideas of evolution and different things like that is not accustomed to what we believe. And
Mhm.
so, as the parents do their job, I think as parents, you really should be solidifying what the teachers are saying as far as from an educational piece,
Mhm.
but for ultimately for instruction and doctrine and how you to be, as she said, home training, that needs to be definitely the parent, and you have the greater influence. One last thing, when I got divorced, I said I changed how I parent. I was dealing with a lot of hurt, and it came out even in my parenting style towards my boys, fussing and angry over stupid stuff, and they just kids, kids doing kid things. And what God says, He says, now that you're divorced, He says you only have these kids for 2 days out of the next 14. He said you do not want their lasting memory of you to be you fussing and being angry. I I was so bad at parenting and didn't even know. People were thinking I was a great dad. I was so bad at parenting that I had changed my ways and changed my heart and how I was treating my boys. And my son made a mistake. I think he spilled some lemonade or something on the on the table, and he just started. My youngest son started bawling and crying. And I said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "You gonna spank me?" I said, "No, I'm not." His brother came in and said, his 2 years difference came in and said, "Dad's not gonna spank you." He says, and so he realized his brother realized I was changing before he did. So the influence is there for the
Mhm.
parent, no matter whether it's 2 days out of the week, whether you're no longer in the household or whatever, 4 hours, 3 hours. The influence is there because you're the biological father and you're the person who's trying to invest in that child.
But
And at
Pastor
least it
AT, you made
should
a good
be.
point. You made a good point, and that's a great testimony. But a lot of anger you see a lot of anger in younger children. I have clients now, 13, 14, and the teenage group, but they're from single parent homes, and these mothers are very angry because things didn't work out for them, didn't work out, and they're doing exactly what you just said. It's nothing but yelling and screaming at the kids, at these young people, and these children are they just have all of this bottled up in them, and they are actually getting on Google telling their parent, I need to talk to somebody because I've got all of this and you're not hearing me. And the parents are calling. And believe it or not, one young girl, she said right in front of her parents, she said, it's because the two of you, all you do is fight. And that's all she goes to school with it. She comes home with it. And so there's no conversation between the parent, the mother and the child, or the child and the dad, because they're both so angry. But the single parent household right now, a lot of them, the mothers are so angry until it's passing on to right onto the children. And it's
but I think that, and I'm going to give it to Pastor Melanie. The thing is, we lead by example.
Yes.
And that's what we have missed. We are not setting good examples in front of our children. And so we want our children to do as we say, and not do as we do. And it doesn't work that way. If you're going out and you're acting loud and unseemly, your children are seeing what you're doing. You can't smack your child and beat your child then when they go to school and do what they see you doing, because that's where they're getting it from. You whooping your child because they're imitating what they see. I agree with what something that Devola said. She said something about chastisement. There's a time to chastise and there's a time to talk.
That's true.
I totally agree. But we need to make sure that when we're chastising, we're not chastising our children
out of anger.
And we're doing what we're telling them not to do. I can't tell my child not to cuss the teacher out and then let me cuss everybody out. I can't do that. I can't tell my child not to be loud and talk out and act a fool, and I'm doing it because that's where they're getting it from. So if you are wanting your child, the people that you are supposed to be the primary influence over to do the right thing, you have to do the right thing. Are you going to be a perfect parent? No, but you need to change. A lot of times I see parents, they doing too much. And we as educators, I'm telling y'all, it's real. I have 4-year-olds. 4-year-olds are not supposed to cuss. 4-year-olds are not supposed to tell their teachers to blank, 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 blank. It is serious out there in early childhood education.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Their parents say a whole lot of things, and so now they're frustrated, and it's something else. When you argue in front of your children, you develop anger in them. So they go to school and they take out that anger on other children. They're lashing out because they're trying to express what they don't like at home. So now you're creating the anger in the child. Go ahead, Pastor Melanie.
No, and I was going to say that being a former educator, parents do not realize how much we see being presented in the classroom and to the teachers what's actually going on in the home.
Yes,
children tell it all. Do you hear me?
They sure do.
They tell it all. But I think another thing with the attention seeker and us training a child up is that sometimes parents they want the children, but then they don't want the parenting responsibility that comes along with it. And so here it is, you have young kids trying to raise a child, and that does not always mix. And then when it comes time for people who are more mature or have knowledge of raising children or being around children and correct your children, the parents don't like it. But if parents were more involved and gave more support, to educators, let me say this, good educators,
Educators,
because
that's right.
Yes.
everybody is not caring,
Mhm.
everybody does not care.
Mm-hmm.
But if there was more teamwork, it could be a lot better.
Yeah.
And there are times where educators, we see sometimes what the parents have ignored, and we are the ones who call that out. Everybody is looking at it. I have to practice of asking my children, which is awesome.
Miss Carey,
And
that's
let me tell
awesome.
you,
Yes.
that's what we were raised to do. Let me say this, African American, and it all depends on what generation you actually
Mm-hmm.
came up in. You know, we didn't have the practice of asking our children how do they feel, or if they
Mm-hmm.
got in trouble, explaining to them why they got in trouble, or explaining some things.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, like I can say my generation growing up, because I said so. Well, what
That's it.
does that mean? Because I
Right.
said so. That's not
Because I'm an
explaining to
adult.
me. Right, because I'm the adult and the adult is right. No, that's not true.
Right.
But
Right.
because of the time and age that we are in, we have to learn how to grow with the
Mhm.
time and age, and also help our children to grow as well,
Yes.
and
Hey,
learning how to
That's
deal
right.
with their
hey,
That's
feelings,
right.
with
that
their
is
emotions. When we notice things that are not right, we have to call those things out, because I can't remember who said it earlier, because sometimes these things are spirits.
mm-hmm.
And there are times where spirits attach to our children. Children don't know it. They come home acting a certain way, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. This
Exactly.
is not something I'm familiar with seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Who have you been around? Who have you been talking to? Because I need to put a stop
Stop to
to,
it.
to
Yes.
your actions immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Hey,
Exactly.
every
Miss
father
Carey,
and every father that fathers a child, and every mother that becomes a mother of a child is not a parent.
that's right.
Correct.
Amen.
Just
Yeah.
not a
Mm.
parent.
Yes, right. Hey, Miss Carey, let me commend you for your statement that you made about you practicing asking your children how they feel about things in your life, because they are a huge part of your life. That's very powerful, because I didn't have that. I
Right.
could not tell my parents why I did what I did, or why I felt the way that I felt, because, as Pastor Mel said, it was their way or the highway, and we got, because I am the parent, or because or because I said so. Why did they do that? Because that's how that they were taught. So now that we have a level of understanding, we have a level of wisdom, that now we can talk differently to our children, because we understand that our children understand a lot better than what we really think they do. So
Mhm.
Exactly.
by you doing that, it's effective communication between you and your children. You now now, I don't know if you had the same thing in your childhood, but if you didn't, you now open up the gates for your children to have more effective conversation with you. You open the door to allow them to come and talk to you about anything, because you're not going to judge them, because you're going to sit there and listen with intent of what they are trying to say. And I look at I look at my youngest brother. I asked my parents. I said, "Hey, why did y'all raise him differently?" And they said that they said because you were the experiment. So I
Yeah.
was the
Sometimes
experiment.
that's
So I
true.
got the
That is
beatings. I
true.
got the killings. I got
And-
that. But he was
but
raised differently.
that's usually the reason why I have issues with Bishop and Mother when it comes to being grandparents. And it's like, look, they were just on the job training. They were figuring it out. They didn't have good lessons their own self. And
Hmm.
so that's usually what happens when it comes to, those type things. So it is what it is.
But
But
the
hopefully if there was a better generation, because your
Exactly.
children will learn better. And then hopefully they'll treat their children even better than
Hmm.
what we were taught.
Right. But we
but I
also
think that
have
we
something called demonic contracts. A demonic contract is something that happened all the way down the line in
Hmm.
the family. It's like a generational thing. And we have to be mindful of that. And somebody has to break that cycle. It takes
exactly.
somebody to break that cycle.
Hmm.
We don't read. We don't always read. We just do. We just do as a parent. Growing up, I saw some things in my home growing up. And I declared that I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to be do the things that I saw my mom do, and so forth and so on. And you end up doing it. The very thing you
Yeah.
hate, sometimes you end up
That's true.
doing it. So
That's
Yeah.
somebody has to break that cycle. You have to read. It's just like a regular contract. You know, when you go to the doctor, you flip it up. You don't read that stuff. They say sign here, initial here, sign here, initial here. Well, a demonic contract is the same way. We don't read everything that's in that demonic contract. Where did I get this from? How did I get to do that? Where did you learn that from? They learned it from you. Where did you learn it from? You learned it from them. You learned it from them, and it goes way, way back. So we have to be mindful and very careful, and especially as Christians, we have to be full of wisdom so we can detect the things in us, like the young lady was referring to. Make sure we take inventory of ourselves so we don't pass that thing off on to our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, in my case.
Amen.
And I want to say one more thing. You have to be teachable.
Yes.
You have to be willing to unlearn learned behavior.
Yes.
Because a lot of
That's
times
right.
we all have learned some things in our life, whether it was from our parents or it was from other influences in our life, but we got to be willing to learn behavior
Yes.
so that we now can be better. We have to be willing to educate ourselves. A lot of times we do because we're not willing to learn how to do differently. And when someone says something to us, we can't get offended all the time because we wear our feelings on our shoulder because we think that everybody is picking on us. Sometimes we have to learn and we have to re-educate ourselves so that we can help this generation coming forth. And it's something Mom said, you got to break that cycle. And the cycle won't get broken if you're doing the same thing that your mama did and her mama did and somebody else's mama did. No, when you are doing things that is getting negative attention. Change is good. It is good. It'll make people. And we talked about the attention seeker, but the attention getter, I want to just commend the attention getter because the only reason why the person gets attention is because they're graceful.
Yeah.
They don't go to seek
People want to be around them.
attention. People want to be around an attention getter because attention getters are pleasant people. They're people that know how to use their words wisely. There are people, you ever see someone that just walks in the room and they own the room and they're so graceful. You can say somebody can say something to them and they're like, okay, no problem. Those are the attention getters because those are the people that have chosen to change and mature and to treat people the way they want to be treated. Last word, Dr. Yvonne Bennett.
I would say that attention getters are people that care about other people. And the Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So you really have to learn to love yourself first. You got to love yourself first. But an attention getter always cares about other people.
Amen.
Amen. Dr. Isaac?
Hey, I can't top what Dr. B just I said. That was right on point. Definitely, you know who the attention getters are versus the attention seekers. You know the actual difference. So you should make sure that you are the getter and not the seeker.
Pastor Melanie?
Yes, know why you are doing what you are doing.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. I like that. Devola said, do not let being a single parent be a crutch. Use that as a tool to prepare yourself and your child. Make sure that there is so much attention given and being reflected that there is no need for negative behaviors. Perfectly said. Well, you have been watching Breaking the Silence, and we have been talking about attention seekers. All eyes on you. Remember, your children are watching, people are watching. You don't have to seek attention. Love yourself, be who you are, be the amazing person that God created you to be. And if you don't know how to do it, then ask somebody and be willing to be taught. Learn behavior. I am your host, Lady V. you have Dr. Yvonne Bennett, Pastor Melanie Butler, and you have Dr. Isaac Davis, and you had Pastor AT. I think he had an emergency and he had to drop off. But next week, we're going to be celebrating a little bit with you all Thanksgiving. So we got some special treats next week, and we're excited about it. But until then, we want you to always remember that you have a voice. Until next week, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.